Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Chapters on Armstrong Television. Chapters is the show where we profile authors, editors, and publishers in the tri-state area, including West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, and sometimes Virginia. And we're delighted to be here again today and have you with us to welcome Katherine Manley, who is our guest. Kathy lives in southern West Virginia, in Chapmanville to be specific, where she's been an educator for over 35 years and has won several prestigious teaching awards. She's a graduate of Marshall University and WVU and a fellow of the 1995 West Virginia Writing Project and the 1996 West Virginia Humanities Council Appalachian Seminar. Her work has been featured in a wide variety of literary publications, and her memoir, Don't Tell 'Em You're Cold, was recently published by Mountain State Press, and it was a semi-finalist in William Faulkner's writing competition. That's terrific.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that, and congratulations on the publication of the memoir. I'm so glad you're here. I read early parts of this memoir before it actually went to press, and I was just blown away. It just... It literally stopped me in my tracks in a way.
Wow.
I think what this book does is gives people a real insight into what it means to be truly poor. I think so many people think poverty is outside this country and not that it's still in this country. And, people have to scrounge for a living, literally, which you had to do, you and your family. And where there's never enough food, they call it food insecurity. That's a nice way of saying starving.
Yes.
It really is. So I hope when they read it, it'll be a way to, and I hope you do read it, it'll be a way for people to recognize what that kind of poverty really is. So tell us, and of course the best part about this book is that you made it out of that state.
Yes.
So it's inspirational, it's gut-wrenching, and I want you to just tell us briefly a little bit about your life and the arc of the story.
The story starts out as a child. I was like 5 or 6 years old in Paint Creek. I was born in a little house on Paint Creek, and there we were starving, and my father had to sell that little shack for 30 cans of Wilson's evaporated milk, and he moved us to Logan County. Perhaps he was thinking we could get a better start. So we continued in poverty there in Logan, and so the story does span my years from age 6 to about 19. And like Carter said, I do make it out, but it took a lot of hard work and a lot of not giving up, never saying no. You get up every day and you think, what do I have to do today to make it? And that's what you do. So that's what it's about. Our entire family struggle with abject poverty, not just being poor, but struggling every day. Whatever you had, whatever you needed, you had to find a way to go out and get it. Nothing was going to be handed to you. There was no comfort zone back then. No one took care of you. You had to take care of yourself.
So you all were on welfare at one time, but then you got kicked off because?
Yes, we were on welfare at that time, and the reason that we were cut off there at Paint Creek, my mother had a little dead baby, and so we were picking up lumps of coal to pay for the baby's funeral. Welfare refused to pay for it back then, and I think the funeral bill was like $90. I think I heard my father say that. So we were all out picking up lumps of coal and selling it, paying on the funeral bill. And of course, being on welfare back then, somebody could turn you in that you're bringing in extra money, and things were very difficult back then, being on welfare. You could not own a vehicle or a TV or a telephone. They had very strict rules, and something was called welfare investigators. They came in your home and they checked you out every month to see what you had and what you didn't have. It's not like that today.
Wow.
You can have a lot of things today that you couldn't have back then.
That's amazing. So you did have a vehicle, however.
Yes, and I think I can tell this little secret now. We had the vehicle, I remember that old truck, we called it the Blue Goose, but readers will think, well, how come they had a vehicle? It was in a dead man's name. The title was registered to a dead man, like a dead uncle or someone, so my father could say, well, it's not my truck, somebody just loaned it to me. That was one of the secrets, so that was a big fib back then, but just to keep us that truck took us where we were gathering walnuts or picking blackberries or gathering scrap iron or looking at riverbanks after a flood came through. We would load everything into that truck. So that truck was sort of like our livelihood. We needed that truck.
Right. And you used it to go to the dump and find
Oh, I forgot about the
things.
dump. Yes, we scavenged through dumps to try to find anything that was broken, or maybe tossed out buckets of paint, or even wood. I think my first chapter is Daddy's leg, and we're in the dump trying to find him some wood and a sofa cushion to try to make him a wooden peg leg. So we visited the dump a lot.
To me, the amazing part of this book is your perseverance and your determination, and that of your father to try and provide for you all in some way, whether it had to do with selling pencils on the street or going to the dump or having you help catch coal and sell it, the lumps of coal. Do you think your book could be set up as an inspiration for people who are experiencing poverty, that there's a way out of it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I hope those who read the book, I hope they get some encouragement from the book that you have to look at today's society, what's going on. And by no means, I do not mean to talk down or be condescending to anyone, but I think there's so many entitlements out there today, so many things that are provided to families and students that we did not have back then. For example, today, one of the things we do, some of the counties, they do fill the bus. People will buy backpacks and composition books and go, so to make sure that all students start out with the same level that everyone has, to start and be successful in school. There are clothing vouchers given out now before school starts that we never had. There are all kinds of churches that I know give out food baskets, and you can go to churches pretty much in our area anytime you want to and get food. They're open like maybe from 9 to 12 or something like that.
Food pantries.
Yeah, food pantries. And there's so much available right now. And what I think that is missing is a good significant other in the lives of these children. It's good to give them materials. Yes, they need food and clothes and shelter. They need all of that. But they need someone to take them by the hand and say, this is what I'm expecting of you, because we're giving this all to you. We expect this. We expect you to graduate and to get a job and to function in society. We're giving you a chance right now. And I would just love to see that happen. I'd love to see a grassroots effort take effect and for people to realize it's not enough just to give them the material possessions, but what are we doing to their minds? What are we doing to provide for them, to help them?
Who was that for you?
I now realize that was my father, because he took his time, he was patient, he explained things, whatever we were doing, if it was blackberry picking or trying to unthaw frozen water pipes, he would explain things. And there were a few little fibs that we had to tell just to make it, like if I was on the street selling ink pens or filling his hat with pencils. He was very cautious. My mother and father were scared to get cut off welfare again, because it was a bad thing. No food, and you're struggling already. But he would tell me to, if anybody asks who I am, to tell them my name was Nancy or Betty, or if someone asked him his name, he was not John Evans. He would say, my name is Henry, or something like that, because he was afraid people would put that together and then tell the welfare that we were getting extra money. But there were no big fancy pieces of furniture in the house or fancy bedspreads. I mean, this was survival. And you hear me talk in the book about 50-cent plastic curtains, and that's what we had for the windows, and that was a struggle just to get those.
What time frame are we talking about here, so people can get
okay.
a sense of what 50 cents meant?
Okay. Let's see. We first moved to the house on Mud Fork. I was around 6 years old, so that would have been like 1958, 59. But we bought those little plastic curtains the late 50s, early 60s, and that's really all we could afford. So the book actually spans like the late 50s, the 60s, and early 70s. So I
that's
graduated.
about when Johnson declared war on poverty?
Yes. Yes.
It didn't help you, did it?
No, it did not. It did not.
Right.
No.
Do you think, because of the way you've written your book, do you think that books, maybe of this kind and others, can serve a moral purpose, a moral function?
Oh, absolutely. I know as a teacher, I loved, as an 8th grade teacher for years and years, I always loved doing the story, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, Christmas, and always would do a unit on altruism. And I would talk to my students. The very last, I think, in the book, one of the themes is we are our brother's keeper. No man should be left alone to try to make it if he's struggling. So although it's I believe our moral right or our moral job to try to look out and help others, I think that we have changed that into just big entitlement in society, and I really don't like that. Being a teacher, I think there's more that we can do to educate. But yes, I think that my goodness, talking about themes, this book hits not only poverty, but handicapped adults, abandonment, survival, struggle. There's so many themes now that I've written it. I can look back and think, wow,
Right.
it could be used in a literature classroom, university classroom, and you could really explore that to see what works and what doesn't work.
I know from reading the book that you also had some teachers that were really supportive of you and helped you. Do you think both your life and those teachers are what made you such a good teacher?
Oh, well, thank you for that comment. Well, absolutely. I remember in the first grade at Verdonville Grade School, the teacher brought in a pan of peanut butter fudge, and she gave us all one small little piece, and I thought that was the best thing ever. And I thought, oh, I want to keep on going back to school. And then I had
Bribery at its
bribery,
best.
yes. And then a couple other teachers gave me a nice bag of clothes in the 2nd grade and then the 9th grade. And I just thought that was the kindest thing ever because I really needed those clothes and I appreciated them. And so when I became a teacher, in my heart, it was just always give back, give to them, give to them. It was very hard for me to ask anyone in the class to bring something for a party, the days we were allowed to have parties. And I would always bring something in, but they were also good to bring something in. But even just last year, where I taught Man High School, Logan County, it was a cold winter's day. And I asked the principal for permission if I could fix cocoa for everyone, and she said yes. So we all enjoyed a hot cup of cocoa while we were doing our poetry and our lesson. And the students loved that. They just settled down, and there has to be a bond. To be effective in the classroom, number one, I believe, is to get to know those students and let them know that you love them and you care about them. And when you're safe in my classroom, I am going to be the significant other. You can tell me anything. I'll help you with anything. And that's my philosophy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what made you a good teacher and got you a lot of awards.
Thank you.
You have retired now, right?
Well,
No?
well,
Yes and no.
I retired in June of 2011, but I have worked every year since that. Of course, we have a teacher shortage in the county, and I do want to help them. And I feel comfortable in the classroom. I feel like that's where I belong. But I was not going to work this fall. My editor told me, she said, you cannot do that. You need to be promoting this book, and there will be interviews, there will be speaking engagements. And I said, okay. But I was just tired. This week, I told them, yes, I'm going to work 2 days a week in a county as an instructional coach, working with language arts teachers. And I'm really excited about that because
Yeah.
the teaching is in my blood.
Right.
And I love
right.
that. So
Is that what you taught, was language arts?
yes.
And did you say 8th grade mostly?
I started out at elementary. I have an elementary degree, and I was there for about 3.5 years. And then I went to the 7th grade for maybe 14 years, and then the 8th grade maybe 10 years. So yes, but then I've also been doing some sub work in the high schools too.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when I first read this, I thought, wow, how do I ask Kathy such personal questions about her life? You know,
That's
and
all
I
right.
thought,
Go
well,
ahead.
you got to do it. You
Go
got to
ahead.
do
Okay.
it. So the obvious first question is, what inspired you to write this down? So many people would have a life like that and maybe think they'd be embarrassed to tell it. So why did you decide to write it?
Okay, well, all right. When you're talking to other people, and once in a while you start to say, wow, we did this, we drove an old truck with sticks when I was growing up, and then someone would immediately interrupt and they'll say, oh, well, let me tell you this. So then I would just take a back step like, oh, wow, I don't really have a story at all because theirs is worse. It would be something like Paw Paw kept a horse on the back porch or something like that. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't have anything like that. So I just sort of put all these stories under a rug until I met Dr. Fran Simone at the West Virginia Writing Project. I brought a class to Logan County one summer, and I wrote 3 pieces for her, and that's really what started it. She read my 3 stories, and she said, these are wonderful. Would you please keep writing? And one day you will have a book. And also she told me where to go. She first referred me to Anna Smucker. I love Anna Smucker, well-known children's writer. And then Cheryl Ware. And then she looked at me, and Fran Simone said, get to Hyman. I want you to get to Hyman, Kentucky. That was the next big break. I met Lee Smith over there. It was like the next summer. And she looked at me, read like, I think I took 5 or 6 pieces. And she said, keep writing these, girl. You've got a book. And I said, I don't know how to do this. She said, you just keep writing these little scenes like you're doing right now. I said, you mean you don't have to start from page 1 and go? She said, no, you just keep writing these little scenes, and then I'll tell you how to string it together.
Oh, wow.
And the last thing she said was, and we kept in touch throughout the years, she said, when you get it all finished, send it to me. I want to see that.
Oh, how nice.
So, and then Fran Simone said, I want you to go to Chautauqua, New York. So I sort of looked at her like as the E.F. Hutton of my life. But, yeah, well, whatever she said, now you go do this, you go do this, and I did that. And the next thing she said was go to West Virginia Writers. They'll be very supportive of you. You'll meet fellow writers there, and they'll help you. So that was one of the best things also. So she gave me 3 good pieces of advice. So I thank her.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. So you wrote it in little scenes rather than deciding to write it from beginning to end, and then you
Right.
did put it back together.
Right.
That's an interesting way to do it, but the way they're written, they are individual, standalone vignettes, and I think that makes it easy to read and makes it interesting because you really focus on the details of that one particular occurrence. I think that was well done.
Thank you.
So, did you look at or think about other people who've written memoirs, and were there any that were favorites of yours, and did you pattern what you did after any of them?
Oh, yes, I love to read memoir. When I first started writing, I didn't know what I was doing, and Lee Smith said, oh, these are slice of life narratives. It's more, it's like could be a memoir. And I read The Glass Castle. I love The Glass Castle, and I was so happy to meet Jeanette Walls. And we sat down and talked for about 30 minutes one time at a meeting. And she kept telling me, oh, you've got a story, you need to write this. I also love Frank McCourt, Angela's Ashes.
Yeah.
I love those 2. So, and then I loved Homer Hickham's Rocket Boys. I loved Homer. I've met him 2 or 3 times. And the Rocket Boys, of course. I love Roy Lee Cook and Billy Rose. They were there when I received one of my awards. But one thing about writing was interesting, Carter. When you write memoir, you must reflect. And because I'm writing this from the eyes of a child, I didn't realize this at the time. When she's 6 years old, she's telling you. When she's 8, when she's 14. And as the book progresses, slowly an awareness slips in. And when that awareness slips in that I'm aware of something, I sort of let you know, the reader know this is what was happening then.
Yeah. So that, I guess that leads to the next question. Now that you've written it, is it easier to talk about it? Was it somewhat cathartic to have written all of it down?
Yes, it was. Because, of course, I'll tell you this. Some of those chapters I wrote, and I cried, and I cried. I couldn't get through them. I would just cry, and I'd have to push the keyboard away, and then I'd have to come back to it. And then as I was practicing reading here the other day for someplace I was reading, I started crying. I thought, I can't do this on stage. And then some of those that I wrote, they were so funny, they cracked me up.
Right.
The chapter about the roaches, let me see, the survivor. I got up one morning at 3:30, and that story was just knocking at the lid like potatoes, knocking at a lid, wanting to be let out and be mashed. I thought, and I just ran downstairs and I got the typewriter, and that was this old typewriter then, and I didn't have a computer when I did that, and I just started typing that, and I was laughing and cracking. It just came out. My husband came downstairs and said, "What are you doing?" I said, leave me alone. This is real funny. I've got to do this. So I did that. And so then I read it to him and he laughed. But some of them are a little bit funny, but they're very painful. Poverty is painful.
Sure.
And I understand now why a lot of my students that I've had through the years, when they are suffering and they're crying and they're going through so much pain, they have to have humor. So a student that's suffering in poverty, they'll have a lot of humor.
I understand, yeah. It's a little like the theory of the television show MASH.
Yes.
You laugh about what's going on in the camp because you know you can't help cry about
That's
war.
a survival technique,
exactly,
absolutely.
it is, yeah.
Yes.
Well, so one of the things that must have been more difficult maybe than some of the others to write about was that your mother left.
That was, yeah. Oh.
Did this give you an opportunity to, in a sense, forgive her and understand what she was going through and why she had to walk out?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, poverty is painful. When you look back and I read the book, you see how hard she had it. And no matter how hard she tried, I mean, she just couldn't make it. Like in the first chapter, I mean, she was waiting for Daddy to come home with flour, and we had been to the dump to bring home materials to make him a wooden peg leg. She couldn't make bread without flour, so here she had beans cooking on the stove, but no bread to serve. I see that she had a difficult time adjusting, and some people are strong, some people are not. So she had to walk away from it. So I forgive her. I mean, I don't believe in blaming anybody at the time something's going on. I think they're doing the best they can. So no, I don't blame her.
Yeah. But did it take you a while to get to that position?
Yes, probably. I did find her, oh gosh, let's see. She ran away right after I had just barely turned 15. It's closer to 14, and then I found her in Cleveland, Ohio, and I went to see her. I was about 22, and she told me where she lived. And I asked her right there in the kitchen, I said, Mom, will you please tell me, why did you leave us? And she said, because I was tired of being poor. And so that right there. But Carter, I thought, okay, well, it wasn't anything I did. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure
that
kids
was relief.
You do blame themselves when their parents have issues.
Yeah.
That's not a surprise. All right, so when you read for pleasure yourself, what do you read? What do you read? A certain genre? Do you read memoir? Do you read novels? What's your go-to books?
Okay, well, first of all, I'll tell you this. I am a Christian, and I read my Bible. I really love reading my Sunday school lesson and keeping up with what's going on. Then the next thing I like to read, my West Virginia writers, Carter Seaton and Laura Tracy Bentley and Kat Pleska and Elliot Parker and Cheryl Ware and Mark Harshman, all of those folks that I go see every year. I can't wait to get there. I like to read them. Let's see, I can't think of anything else right now, but I have like a stack of those books on my coffee table. And I did start Hillbilly Elegy, and I just got maybe 3 or 4 chapters, and it's there, but I have not gotten back to it.
Yeah.
So
It's a different take on the life in Appalachian.
yeah,
It's come in for a lot of criticism because of the,
yeah,
the
It's-
way
it's
he
different.
wrote it. Yeah,
It's different.
Right. So, what's next for you? What are you planning to do next?
Well, are you talking about writing? Well, my editor suggested I do something with education, maybe talk about the way it was back then, what way things are now, something like that. And then someone told me the other day where I've been going to speak, and they want a sequel. They want something else along that line. So I have some thinking to do about that.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Right. So if you could invite, say, 4 authors to dinner, living or dead, who would they be?
Oh my gosh, that's hard. That is so hard there. You hit me with a hard one.
Besides the West Virginians, okay?
Okay, no West Virginians?
No,
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
you've already given us a bunch of kudos, so let's
Okay.
find somebody else.
Well, I really like Jeanette Walls. I did speak with her before. Oh my goodness, William Faulkner. Goodness, this is too hard for me. And Frank McCord, I really loved his books.
Yeah.
You have to help me with the 4th one. I can't think right now. My brain is. Charles Dickens. I loved all of his things. Harper Lee. Now it's coming to me.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Harper
Yeah,
Lee,
some of my
right.
favorites that I taught.
Yeah.
All of those stories.
Right.
They touch me, they move me. The ones I would do in the classroom, especially.
I think Pat Conroy is one that I would invite if I could.
Okay.
His books are fiction, but they do have a touch of memoir to them as well.
Okay, yeah, forgot about him.
Yeah.
You asked me some.
Yeah.
My brain, okay,
Yeah.
somewhere else, okay.
It's interesting to read memoir, I think, just for the personal stories that you get, people's lives, and it gives you a way, maybe you don't agree with this, but it gives you a way to walk in somebody else's shoes.
Absolutely. I believe in that, and we don't understand them until we really see. All the people would tell me, oh, I was raised just like you. I was raised just like you. And now that they have read my story, I think some of them have changed. They've changed their mind and say, no, I didn't have it like that. That was tough.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Right. So now those people that you said you would listen to their little stories, and you'd think, well, I didn't have anything nearly that bad. Do you still believe that?
No, I think that and the response has been so good. I mean, the books are selling really, really good. I mean, as fast as I can get them in.
Yeah.
They're ordering from Mountain State Press. They're ordering from me. And I think since the book came out like 5 weeks ago, I've already sold about, 350 books, maybe 400, and I have orders for more. Every morning when I get up, I go downstairs and the email, Facebook, there's about 7 or 8 people wanting books, so I'll go deliver them or I'll mail them. So I wanted to keep those orders coming.
Right. Well, it sounds like maybe a sequel is a good idea.
I might do
People
that.
want to know how the rest of your life turned out.
Yes,
That's wonderful. Kathy, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a real pleasure. We're just delighted to have you. And we also want to thank the Inner Geek for providing the support that we have here for Armstrong Television and Chapters, and remind you that books that by the authors who have been on the show are usually here at the Inner Geek, and we hope you'll choose this independent bookstore as the place for you to buy all of your books. And it's wonderful to have you again, and thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Connect with Chapters via email. Write to lp4@zoom.email. Chapters has a Facebook page at Armstrong Chapters. Like, subscribe, and follow. All chapter episodes are available on YouTube. Visit Armstrong's YouTube channel. Follow Armstrong. And look for a playlist of all the Chapters programs.